Good evening and welcome to the Green Room. And tonight on the Green Room, that's it, they've pressed that button. Press that button. We have two new production assistants tonight. We have Emer O'Reilly and we have Angie Sutherland. But before all that, we have some internet news. Thanks to our media partner, Drumlin Media, this programme is now available on monaghantv.com, corkcitytv.com, meathtv.com, dundalktv.com, donegaltv.net, and many more coming online all the time. So make sure to tell all your friends in them areas, and we'll have more information for you on our Facebook page, the Cabin TV channel. We'll tell you more about that later on. Now, recently, myself and Mick went up to the Ramor in Virginia and had a chat with Pat Shortt. Now, Pat was very cut for time, and he said, we can only have a few minutes. But the few minutes turned into over half an hour, and we've edited it for your entertainment tonight. A Green Room special with the one and only Mr. Pat Shortt. Now, before we go anywhere, before Dave runs that, anyone in Monaghan, Cork, Meath, Dundalk, Donegal, anywhere, bands, music, contact us through our page on Facebook, and we can put you on the Green Room as well. But now, let's go to Virginia, and this is myself and the one and only Mr. Pat Shortt. Here we are in the Ramor in Virginia, in lovely setting and lovely surroundings, and we're joined by the incomparable. It took me a long time to learn that word.
That's a big word for going in the door. You don't open the back door for that.
Pat Shortt, well, he's our living legend now, isn't he? And he very kindly joined us here on Cabin TV, on the Green Room, to tell us about his life, what's going on, what's going to happen. He's a clairvoyant, he's a psychic, he's everything. He's everything a man could ask for. He's everything a woman could ask for. Come to that.
You go now.
Pat, how are you?
Good, great, yeah.
And you're welcome to Virginia, welcome to Cabin.
Much. Yeah, looking forward to it. Now, I've done a good few shows here down through the years, so it's a fantastic venue, great spot. You know.
The beautiful thing about Ireland is it's compact.
Yes.
And like in all your comedies and that we've seen, everybody knows everybody.
Yes.
And is connected to somebody somewhere along the line. You know, something happens to somebody down in Cork, they know about it straight away. You know, here in Cavan.
It's a small little country.
We don't need mobile phones and nothing like that.
No, shout loud enough.
Pat, where did it all start for you, Pat?
Well, I kind of fell into comedy by accident, really, is how it happened. I went to our college in Limerick, and I met up with John Kenny down there. And I played saxophone, and since I was quite young, I played a lot of jazz. So I got to know John and just started playing a bit of music with him, because John's a great musician. Mm-hmm. He came from a band originally called Gimmick. And so that kind of, just when I was in college, the weekends and that, I'd meet up with John, play a bit of music, have the crack. And I kind of got more and more into having fun with him, because with John it was never straightforward as getting up playing a tune. You got up and you put a coat on, you took your clothes off, you did whatever it was, depending if it was a seaside type of tune, we'd strip off down to the jocks and as if we're going swimming with water and all, and you'd get up and play whether it be summertime or whatever the tune is. And so that kind of, and then when I came to the end of the year in college, I decided to leave college, and John, myself decided to hook up together, and I went on the road with John as a sound engineer, lighting engineer. So I always look at that as my apprenticeship years, if you understand what I'm saying. Because
but were you a joke teller?
Well, I was a messer, I suppose. Yeah.
Thank God I wasn't like that.
I suppose I was. I never considered it. I never looked. You don't ever look back at yourself. Mm-hmm. In these situations, and other people would be the best people to ask those questions, because they would rant on about it. But I was always messing that. I suppose I got into the crack with John, and then the two of us used to just travel around the country, and we used to just be messing kind of at gigs and setting up. We often went into a gig and there was no real kind of comedy clubs at the time in Ireland.
No.
It was just lounges and that kind of stuff. So, and we used to do a lot of work before discos, which was often. But we'd do something different there. We'd hang up like clotheslines and clothes and stuff in the bar, and suddenly turn it into a kind of a backyard scene, and have this crack. And we did a bedroom scene with two young fellas in bed, and we used to knock together to build the bed, two pieces of timber and stuff on stage. So we were constantly messing. And the more John was doing a solo show, I was doing sound, and I was kind of.
And when you dragged in, so you're on the desk?
Yes, and I'd jump up from the desk and down with the saxophone and play or do a bit of crack and messing. And it got to the stage after about 3-4 years of doing this that we realised the audiences wanted to see more of John will hate me for this. No, they wanted to see more of the two of us together than him on his own. We both felt. So we wrote a full show, and we got another sound guy in, and we just felt that we did a show called It's My Shout, and then we went on to a show called we travelled a lot with It's My Shout all over Europe and into America and England and Edinburgh and everywhere. Then we went to we did a new show called One Hell of a Do, which was based around a wedding. And we did a lot of work in New York with that. Actually,
And did it work? Did it work in New York?
Yeah.
With the Irish community? And
and the Americans as well, because it was the madness of it. They used to call us vaudevillian type of. I actually just on money back from New York. I was doing a gig there last week, and it was, again, it was a huge reaction to material. People think it's very, very Irish, and it is very, very Irish what it do, but it does. We often used to say the most parochial things are the most universal, in a sense. You look at Coronation Street.
Absolutely.
And it's about a street in Manchester. Who'd ever think it's one of the biggest shows in the world? Soaps, and people love it, and people over here love it, and yet it's nothing got to do with Ireland or Irish.
And people see you and Coronation Street doing stuff, and they say, that's us.
Exactly, yeah.
That's what
and
happened.
a lot of our material at the time was about relationships between, because it was a double act, relationships between the mother and the son, or the father and the son, or the neighbours and the whatever, the butcher. So it was kind of very much Irish scenarios. So yeah, and I think that show, One Hell of a Do, which was the wedding show, we had 2 band members in that called Dumbelievables.
Yes.
The characters.
Yeah.
And then
the legend starts.
It started there, basically, yeah. And after that show, we did another show called That's Life. And the name Dumbelievables, even though it was 2 characters in the previous show, followed us on. And we became known as Dumbelievables and not John Kinney and Pat Shortt. So that's how we kept the name.
And it just...
It really
snowballed from there.
It just snowballed. I think you'd have to go back to a Late Late Show appearance with Gay Byrne.
Yeah.
And that was huge.
I remember it, yeah.
Yeah, and that was, after that it was just, it was huge.
And with the Unbelievables and that, and we can say it now because you frightened the shite out of your audience.
But that was
nobody would say at the front.
Yeah,
you know,
and that was part of the charm of doing the shows, and still with my own work, because it's a style that I have and that John have, and we created together, and it's a style. In Europe, they used to call us comedy dell'arte. In America, they used to call us vaudevillian. It's where you move through the audience and have the crack. But we do. I think the difference between us and a lot of people is we do it affectionately. The joke is always on us, on me, and it's fun with the audience. I never ever take the piss out of someone or have a go at them. I have poked fun at myself or the environment or the village or the place that we're talking about. But it's a very Irish thing, and I talk to the audience like in character. I talk to the audience like I grew up listening to my dad talking to people or my neighbours talking to people. And the way relax and talk and everything is very, very. And I think that's what people can identify as the Irishness of that. You know.
And it's unique within Ireland that the ability to tell a story.
Yes. Well, we're like that. The Irish are like that. We're good storytellers, conversationalists. And rogues as well.
Oh yeah.
and all these things. And that's what the character, but at the same side there is a lovely warmth and affectionate kind of thing going on there.
Yeah.
And I remember as a kid, and I know people do as well that I talked to. Audiences do twig into those characters,
And they identify because they say, that's like
we used to have a lad
town.
We had a teacher like that, or we had a fella in the town. But that's because I look at iconic figures as well in Ireland, in the sense of like, when I was a kid, I grew up in a town called Thurles in Tipperary, and the one big thing about it I remember was it was a big Catholic town.
Yes,
we're a big Catholic country anyway, but Thurles had 2, at the time, it doesn't anymore, but at the time had 2 of the biggest priest training colleges in the country. It had a big cathedral there. It had 2 of the biggest boarding convents in the country, the Presentation and the Ursuline.
Sure, it wasn't the Vatican you lived in.
Yeah, it was not too far from it. I mean, there was 2 or 3 priest training colleges there. Palatine's definitely and the main one. So I remember I used to sell newspapers outside the church on a Sunday morning as a kid as well. And I remember the May processions and all these things. And when you had those processions, they were huge events. We don't see anything like it anymore. But people came out with sashes and walking with candles and midnight parade. It was great pageantry, actually. I really enjoyed it as a kid, seeing all these things and the colour of it and everything else. But you also had the stewards that came out, the fellas waving cars on and all that kind of stuff. And that's the thing I remember, and I kind of portrayed those characters, the real characters. Now they were official and all the rest, but they took on this authority. And it was their moment of the 5 minutes of fame, or whatever you want to call it. It was just their dare to of.
Well, even in the latter years, I remember going to mass and seeing the S and thinking they were SS.
That's right.
They had the S on their arm. You sit there.
Yeah,
you sit there.
The stewards, yeah.
And you had the fear of God in them, not the priest.
God, no, but these guys were worse.
Yeah,
and these were the guys. I remember doing a show with John once, and I did a guy in a brown coat like that, and he just. The look he give you is enough to put you in your place, and everybody remembers that. Well, certainly in my generation, we remember those type of people in stewards and crack.
I remember too.
It's great. It was great about growing up in Ireland.
They'd be standing in the middle aisle.
Yeah.
They'd see the women stand at the back and be.
Well, they used to, and I'm in Thurles. I remember they used to stand in the street directing the traffic to car parking and all that, and they nearly felt like the police. You know what I mean?
And funerals.
Yeah, funerals, and it was great. It was great pageantry and great, it was great. And those memories is what I put into the characters.
And that was in Unbelievables and all that.
Yeah, and even in the current shows, the character I have in this current show I have a teacher character and a mother character, and they're both they're both about their power and their the power they have over the young fella, which is Dixie Walsh.
Yes, yeah. We'll come to Dixie in a minute because I want to talk to you first about Father Ted. Now, this was a very small part you had in Father Ted.
Yes.
The biggest small part ever because everybody. How are you, Father?
Yeah, I remember Graham Lennon telling me it was one of his favourite characters in the whole. Graham, who wrote it, one of his favourite characters in the whole series. He was. I was in 6 episodes, I think. 3 episodes in the first series and 3 episodes in the second series. But he was a great character, very small part. But he had this sense of madness when he came on the screen.
The thing about that character was, as soon as he came on the screen, you went, "Oh no!"
Yeah. Here
he is again.
There's going to be something mad is going to happen here.
And this is going to, and that is fantastic to get a TV character that can take over from the principal characters.
Yeah, it was just there's something special about Tom, and it was in the writing. It's Graham and Arthur's writing.
And the classic, Pat, the classic. I shot JR.
That's right.
That is absolutely fantastic.
And the amount,
even kids today.
Yeah.
No, they say I shot JR, and they know the legend behind that,
Yeah, and it's amazing. Everybody asked me, "Did I keep the T-shirt?"
Did you keep the T-shirt?
No, I didn't. When we shot it, it wasn't a big show. It was a show that like 2 years later, 3 years later, it took off. I remember the first episode of Father Ted. I was working somewhere, and it was on TV. And I remember my dad was in Wales, I think, and he saw it on Channel 4 over there. And I don't think he was
S4C.
I'm not too sure was he too happy with it. And a lot of people weren't, too happy with it. It wasn't actually until I believe it wasn't until it became cult in the UK.
Yeah.
And the kids, my brother was teaching in England at the time, and he rang me up and said they're in the schoolyard to go and drink.
Oh yeah,
girls,
yeah.
Kids and it just you knew then it was when the kids start doing it, mimicking it.
So you're part of comedy legend now. You're
myself and loads of other people. I suppose the great thing about Father Ted was it was the kind of start of a movement of Irish comedy. There was Irish comedy there always before that. There's no question, but it was just a different movement.
Was it turned down by RT?
No. It was never offered to them.
I've had this argument so many times. People said to me, it was turned down by RT because what was going on with the Catholic Church and everything.
No,
Absolutely
not. To be very, very honest about that, Dermot Morgan, I got on very, very well with him. I wouldn't say a close friend of mine, but I knew him very, very well. We both, I'm from Thurles. Dermot grew up in Thurles as well. A lot of people don't realise that. His family, he started there and moved to Dublin. But and his aunts were my mum's best friends actually for years. But Dermot seemed to have a bit of a barney with RT.
Oh yeah,
and it suited Dermot to put out the word that they didn't take it and they wouldn't take it on. But the reality of it was, I know from talking to the guys, it was never offered to RT.
Yeah.
Initially, it might have been mentioned to them, would they be interested in doing it? They weren't interested in doing it, I think. But Hat-Trick, no, actually, it started in England, in the UK. Sure, it did. Yeah, Hat-Trick Productions, and what was the comedy? He produced it as well.
I know.
But who's the head of comedy in BBC? Channel 4. He died a few years ago.
Did he die as well?
And he fell under a bus in London.
Oh, that's right.
It was tragic. Yeah. Jeffrey Perkins.
Jeffrey
was the man who started that.
And he was part of the 80s comedy scene in England as it was building up. Yeah. He was.
And he was the man that really drove it on and got Channel 4 to make it at the time. I think he was working with Hat-Trick or he was working with Channel 4, and he eventually went on to be the head of comedy in Channel 4. He was a great guy actually. He was absolutely outstanding.
And he pushed it to the
He pushed it and got it up and running.
And what a lot of people don't know either is that poor Dermot Morgan was a star before Father Ted.
Yeah.
Here in Ireland, anyway.
Yeah.
You know, everybody in the business knew
He was
Dermot
legendary.
Morgan.
I mean, I remember Dermot doing the late slots. That was my first memory of him.
Yeah.
When I was the priest of Victoria. And they're still brilliant pieces.
Yeah.
And actually, Father Ted was written based on that.
And what did Father Ted mean for you then? Did it open doors, or were people just saying...
It did and it didn't. I mean, it did not open doors.
Yeah,
but I think it did, in a sense, it didn't do anything directly for me.
Yes.
It was great to be associated with it. It did a lot for Irish comedy, so indirectly it did do something for me, if you understand what I'm saying.
Yeah.
And definitely, if you look at, like, Tommy Tiernan was in it, Brennan Grace was in it, Patrick MacDonald was in it, Joe Rooney was in it.
Were you afraid of it?
Of
Father Ted, when they said, will you do this?
No.
Were you saying, God, this is telly?
It was my first telly part. It was my first acting part. I hadn't done anything prior to that. After that, I got a film part around the same year. It was the first time I did a movie then with Mia Farrow. And
hold on, don't put it under your breath. With who?
It was Mia Farrow.
Not Mrs. Frank Sinatra.
Yes, very much at the time. And Brendan Deason and Patrick Bergen, and I was myself, and that was the first film I ever did that time.
Yeah.
Around that time. So my acting kind of career started around the same time as Father Ted, if you want to call it that.
Have you any acting? Did you go to drama school or anything like that?
No. I only ever did one
school
play.
Of life.
I did one play in school, and I was a cardboard box. I was a tree. So I didn't come out for it, but I won an award for being the best tree.
But you can act, you know.
Yeah.
We see you in everything.
Well, as I say, I kind of my apprenticeship started with John in the early days, and acting and performing and learning the hard way, which was in front of an audience. I mean, initially I was kind of saying, I wasn't interested in going to acting college because I didn't want it to interfere with my own characters and drive me a certain way. And subsequently, I look back and say, God, it would have been great to go to acting college, because now that I've worked with a lot of people who've done it and learnt a lot from them, I see now the positive things that would have been got from...
Does Pat Shortt lie in bed at night and go, oh, that's a great idea for a character? That's... Yeah. Or you talk to people, like, you go around the country, you go around the world.
Well, I think it hits you. I think when a good character pops up, it hits you. I don't think anyone ever lies in bed thinking about it, but there's times when you'll be thinking about a new show or something, and something will hit you. And that can often be if you're in bed, but it's just, I think when you see somebody doing something, is always what triggers something with me. Yeah. If I see a funny walk and I'd say, gosh, that's fantastic, look at the gadget that person. Do you know, and then, like, I was over in New York last week and there was a woman went past me jogging, and it was the weirdest looking thing I ever saw in my life. And I definitely would have a character out of that.
Well, you made a star out of the girls in Killinascully.
Yeah, the power walking. And that was funny. We were doing that into year two into it. And actually how the power walkers came about was it was very simple. Some of the best stuff comes around really simply, and we had a shot with Dieter, the German, pulling up outside the pub, but the transition of getting him from there to the pub, we could have done a cut, but we wanted to do a shot of him going in to establish the exterior as well, and it was just taking forever. And it wasn't, it
wasn't gelling.
It wasn't gelling, and it was just seemed too long and a lot of time for nothing. So I said, look, I said to one of the wardrobe, have you got any have we some female stuff here? And so I'd say, look, have you tracksuit? Because we'd also she'd have a load of costumes there. I said, look, just throw a wig on me. I'll do a power walking thing. And better still, is there two extras? Because we had a gang of extras. Two women over there will do it with me. So, and I remember years ago, we used to be working, and I used to see this woman with this weirdest power walking type walk, which apparently was for the hips or something like that. So it really worked very well that as the camera came around with him, he stopped, the two power walkers, and gone, and in the door. And we had her actually as she was the woman in the B&B. So yeah, Gretty, it was Gretty's gear. So I said, just give me Gretty's gear and I'll do power walking past. And that's what happened, and it became...
That character development.
But the power walking took off huge.
But you see, the thing is, because everywhere in Ireland, everywhere in England, they're about walking women.
But it's more so an Irish thing.
Yeah.
And I remember reading a walking book and
Jesus, they mean it.
They
mean it. Like,
I'm sure it's over in England and even in America I saw more people jogging.
Yeah.
But we had a producer over with us when we were doing from London when we were doing Killinscully, and she said to me, "I don't get the power walking thing."
Well, she didn't understand.
I just didn't get it. And 3 days later, she turned up to me and says, "I definitely get it now." Because she said every day after coming back from set, she used to see, the house.
Every country town, every big city.
It's after the kids go to school in the morning, or it's after the kids come home and are fed and everything else, that the women get out in their droves, and it's fantastic, But it is, you can't miss it anywhere in Ireland.
That is fantastic. And so, after Killinscully...
After Killinscully, I was doing...
Tell us about the films. Come on. Name drop. I'll name drop. I had Keith Allen recently, and he was talking to me, and he was doing this, and he was doing that, and I said, name drop. We want to know. Yeah, you've worked with the... You just said a few minutes ago, Mia Farrow, as if it was... It's only Mia from down the road.
I just finished working with Fionnuala Flanagan on a film, actually.
Irish legend.
She's amazing.
Yeah.
Absolutely amazing. She's just an incredible actress, and we shot in Sweden and in Ireland, and there was some really heavy scenes, physically heavy scenes for her to do, and she was just amazing. Like, she's just so professional and just got stuck in for someone who's got a great career behind her and has worked with everyone, Jim Carrey across the board, and no complaining, no prima donna, nothing like that. Just got on with the job
and do you feel intimidated by people like that?
No, not at all. I mean, with her, I really enjoyed working with her. I look forward to working with her on that one. Because I'd heard so much about her, and then to work with her, and I was a huge fan of actually that program she did in Boston about the brothers. It's called The Brothers, actually.
Yes, I know. Yeah, it was
the kind of based on the Whitey Bulger kind of story of the brother who had the politician and the criminal. But I thought she was just amazing.
And again, Fionnuala Flanagan, it's a typical Irish thing. She's huge, way bigger in America and that side of the world than she would be here. She's a film star of Hollywood proportions in America.
Yeah, I travelled back with her from Sweden, and we had to go through Germany and everything, and just everywhere you went.
Oh yeah,
people were, So I mean, working with her, Aidan Quinn, I had a great time working with Aidan. We did a film with James Caan, Stephen Ray.
He whispers, he goes, just James Caan, your man from the French Connection, one of the biggest films ever.
But I mean, it's
a job.
It's a job, and they're doing a job, and you end up working with them. And I've been lucky. I've worked on quite a few movies with Brendan Gleeson, and I really enjoy.
A gentleman.
Incredible. Himself and Sean McGinley now would be two good friends of mine, and two characters, But always, if ever I get an opportunity to work with them, you jump to it.
I'll try and get them. Yeah. We'll try and get them on. Say to them, cabin tea, I can imagine Brendan Gleeson going, what? You!
Actually, look, you just end up working with people, and it's great.
You're having a crack with them.
Yeah.
See, every job within show business should be... These Egypts with their egos and stuff like that.
But you find some of the biggest stars like that, they're very down to earth, you know what I mean? They're very, very easy going.
Pat Shortt, you're very down to earth. We came in today and it was, how are you lads? And that's what it's about. Yeah. And we have seen other people, I'm sure you have as well.
Oh, yeah.
And it's, hold on, don't go in that door, and you think there's a trap door, you're going to fall through. And we say, we only want to have a chat, that's what it is. But anyway, this brings us to Dixie Walsh.
Dixie, is a current show.
Now, I'm going to love this, because I've been in bands for 3,000 years.
Yeah, Dixie's based on a couple of different characters. There was one friend of mine, and I couldn't really talk too much about it because
you can tell me after.
But he was so sincere about the music industry from down that neck of the wood, and the local music scene couldn't get disillusioned with it. And it meant so much to him, the passion and and that's what Dixie's about. Dixie's a character, plays music in a local area, and to him it's the universe, and it's the Emmys, it's the Brit Awards, it's everything else.
It's fantastic.
And it's his whole world and I think it's lovely and affectionate, but it's also hilarious,
And have you taken Dixie from people you've known
in the
business?
A couple of people in the business. You know yourself.
Yeah.
And it's great. I mean, I used to love this guy's passion for the music in that area where he grew up and where he played, and so it's kind of Dixie's based on that. Dixie's the character who wrote the Breakfast Roll song, Where Did My Money Go, They were two big tunes I had out in the past, and he'd written a few other songs as well, which are in the show. And it's not all music, but it's about him, his life, about his teacher who taught him, and people who influenced him, and his mother is there, and he goes out. I suppose what I wanted to do is, like with all the shows, is create a vibe and an environment, a place.
Yeah.
So in this, Dixie's created a 22.5-year anniversary concert for himself, where he's invited every musician from the area, and they're all in the audience. So the audience become these musicians, and so Dixie goes down and
I've
talks
been at
to them
gigs
all.
like that.
Yeah, I know. I've been at a few around the country myself, and he goes in and he knows everybody in the audience, and everybody's a different musician and band and got a different story, and he goes down and does the story with them. So it's good interaction, good fun. Yeah.
And as Dixie is the legend, are you putting Dixie down as the singer of the Breakfast Road song, or is he the man that wrote it and then gave it to?
He's the man. He's just a man.
Didn't the Breakfast Roll song come along at the perfect time?
Yeah.
Ireland was flying. You couldn't get into a cafe or supermarket, whatever it was, in the mornings.
Well, that's why I kind of wrote
and
it.
And I did, thanks to you, partake of a few breakfast rolls.
Well, that's funny. I knew a guy in the garage, and he said, "Oh, geez, the breakfast roll, that's going to kill off the business." And he said it boomed after that. After the song was out, people read it. It was a funny one. Yeah, I suppose I was working on a new show at the time, and I was working on a character, a builder, and I used to go to the office every morning to work, and on the way I'd pick up a newspaper, read or milk or whatever, and I used to go into the shop, and there would be just a line of high-vis jackets in front of breakfast rolls. And I remember the sketch I did years ago, I wrote it with John, about the young fella in the shop going, how much are them, how much are these? And the whole concept of that is like, you know, you go into the shop and you get stuck behind the young fella coming out of school, and you just want to get your newspaper and go. And he's got 20p, and it's the biggest purchase of his life. You know, so you have to wait while he makes his mind up. Will you have them or will you have those? And when you go into the shop, these guys, it was the same at the time. They just go, how do you have that? I have 2 eggs, one rasher, sausage. No tomato, and this will be going on forever. And then the next guy will come in the same. So I kind of wrote the song based on that, and it was of the time. It just
when you do say that, the kid with the money, that is absolutely huge in England.
Is that right?
That clip is it's quoted in England, because I've heard people saying it, like, you know, and stuff like that, and the guards, the two guards,
yeah.
Absolutely massive. Do you ever meet a guard and he says, "Oh, come here, you boy, yeah." Like, I'm sure you know guards, but we all do, like, you know.
They
are massive.
Oh, the two guards and that are very funny. Yeah, it's two good characters. Well, the thing about those two, I mean, again, it was two good, solid characters, these two guys, and we were kind of doing we were doing a whole program based around TV shows. It was a video called The Telly, and it was like we did Away in a Home as like a send up of Home and Away, except it was like our soap opera, which was in a nursing home, and we did like a kind of an opera type one with a guy bringing the heifer. And the two guards was like a kind of a guard of total, but it was just the two guys ranting on. It was, you know, how stupid are people out there leaving their windows open and hacking their God, jeez. And we didn't realise, but there was cops telling us afterwards, like, that's what it's like.
That's what happens.
It's all the simple stuff.
The best comedy is real life, because it's there in front of you, and you say, "God, I did that myself," like, you know, and then left the bloody door open and went out. And, it's just crazy.
Yeah.
Pat, Dixie Walsh, where is he going next?
Well, I'm in the Ramor Theatre at the moment for tonight, and then we're up in Nace, in the Theatre Nace, and then Theatre Monaghan, and then I think down at the Comedy Festival in Dingle, and then I'm doing a film and finishing off another one, 2 films in August, September, and I think the tour starts in October, full whack then from Dublin.
All
over Ireland, yeah.
He's going big
abroad,
time.
Yeah.
But what's after Dixie? What's Pat Shortt in the pipeline? In this business, you have to be going.
Well, there's always something. I'm working on a project, a couple of TV shows that might be happening in the UK. We're working on developing some stuff over there, and working with RT on developing a project for next year as well. So
and does stuff come into Pat and he goes, "Oh no, not."
No, I tend to I tend to work a lot with one or two guys. David Cummins, who's standing over there behind the camera.
Oh yeah.
David's a great writer.
Man, Dave.
And we work together. But you kind of come up with ideas, and Mike Finn is another writer I work with as well. Wrote Kill and Scully with me, and you knock together ideas, and then you do pitches and proposals and that kind of stuff. And we tend to write our own stuff because it's.
Is Kill and Scully coming back?
No. No, there is something in the pipeline, all right.
Something similar.
Something might be done with Kill the Scully. There's talk of doing a movie of it. We've been approached about that at the moment.
Yeah.
So that's in the pipeline. But the TV show itself won't come back because it was a big production.
It's done. It's done.
And it's nice to leave it there, and there's good memories of it, and people like it.
And a great cast.
It's a huge cast.
And then
it's a super cast, yeah.
Dieter and all them people,
Yeah.
great characters.
Super actors and actresses. We were really lucky with it. That's what made it, was apart from my own brilliance. I know, there was other brilliant people around me as well, but no, it was...
Father Filipino.
Yeah.
Did you think of that? Yeah. That's the one that clicked when everyone's Father Filipino. Oh, Jesus, great. Pat, thank you very, very, very much.
Pleasure.
It's been an absolute... This is a real... We've made a real friend here with Pat Shortt. He's been absolutely fantastic with us here on the Green Room. When he comes back to Cavan and when he does his world tour, I know he's going to need a chaperone of some description. So I'll send Mick.
Bigger lad.
No. I'd be the what do you call it? The mascot. I call him for the crack. I have to tell you, myself and Mick came up in a camper van, and we were came up with this great crack. We're going to interview Pat Shortt now with the camper van. We're having a bit of crack coming up with it. And we're seeing your Winnebago. What mobile studio the boys have? It's taken up the whole main street of Virginia. It's enormous. We snuck out about it. We just went, forget about it.
It's our tour bus, yeah.
Ladies and gentlemen, the one and only, the legend that is Pat Shortt. Thanks a million, Pat. Thank you.